all of you and to welcome Dr. Aditya Anji on this episode of National Security Analysis. Dr. Aditya Anji is not just one of the most renowned psychiatrists based out of the United States, but he's also a very famous geopolitical analyst with a lot of his columns coming in newspapers and renowned publications and also news channels. So, welcome on National Security Analysis.
Thank you very much indeed, Captain Nikita Sahai, for inviting me on your platform, National Security Analysis. Pleased to be here.
Same here, sir. So a lot is going on as we speak right now. It's a very I don't want to call it unstable, but Russia Ukraine is it hasn't reached any conclusion, and now we are faced with this triangle of Iran, US, and Israel, where US is supporting Israel, and of course they are both fighting against Iran. Their supreme leader has also been killed in this ongoing war, almost 42 days old now. So, sir, first of all, I want to understand that because we are Indians, our neighbor is Pakistan. Pakistan touches the border of Iran. How Pakistan is going to get affected by it? And also, if Pakistan gets affected by it, is Saudi going to help Pakistan because of the SMDA, the Strategic Mutual Defense Agreement that they signed way back in 2018? So, kindly throw some light on this whole equation, sir.
So, the geopolitical situation is very fluid. After post-World War II, there was a bipolar order, and there were attempts to create what is called a rule-based order. That rule-based order has totally disappeared. Let's be very frank about it. No international law is being observed by any of the major superpowers, especially United States. The war in Ukraine and Russia is almost 4 years old now, and there is no conclusion or end to that war. It is a quagmire. And that conflict is not just Ukraine versus Russia, that is Russia versus NATO/EU, and Ukraine happens to be the battlefield. But it's a wider war in which, to a certain extent, United States also participated as a NATO ally very strongly for a long period of time till this new administration came. Now, the war in Gulf, which I like to call Third Gulf War, that is not just between United States, Israel, and Iran. It has become a regional war in which other parties are involved. So Israel is attacking Lebanon. Hezbollah sitting in Lebanon is attacking Israel. Very recently, Houthis in Yemen have also joined. Iran had stated that if it is attacked by either Israel or United States, it will consider all the Gulf Arab states as legitimate targets because United States has bases there. So all those countries are involved in this war. The Strategic Mutual Defense Agreement between Saudi Arabia and Pakistan was actually signed in September of 2025. And the precursor to signing that agreement or immediate trigger was that Israel had attacked in Doha, Qatar, a meeting that was being held officially at the suggestion of United States to have some sort of conclusion of the Gaza war situation in which some of the Hamas leaders were participating. And that was bombed actually as part of the meeting. So Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is under US patronage, under US security umbrella. And they read that signal as stating that probably Israel will not even consider US umbrella because that meeting in Doha, Qatar was held with US blessings. Now, Pakistan and Kingdom of Saudi Arabia have long-standing strategic relationship, though not fully formalized, since 1951.
True.
In pretty much all the wars between India and Pakistan, Saudi Arabia came to the side of Pakistan. Kingdom of Saudi Arabia also bailed out Pakistan twice, once loaning them $3 billion when they were at verge of economic breakdown and bankruptcy. Second time $3.5 billion. So they have supported the state of Pakistan. In 1981, two brigades of Pakistani army were sent to Kingdom of Saudi Arabia to protect the guard the Saudi royal family. They stayed there for more than 10 years. Then later on, I think around in late 2010s or around 17 or 18, Kingdom of Saudi Arabia announced a coalition of 39 Islamic nations to fight down terrorism, or as a counter-terrorism measure, in which a retired chief of army staff of Pakistan, General Rahil Sharif, was the head of that counter-terrorism coalition, and he stayed in that position. So they have formal ties, but the strategic mutual defense agreement was a new thing. Also, the viewers need to know that Pakistan's nuclear agreement was bankrolled by Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and there were implicit assumptions that if push comes to shove, Pakistan will provide nuclear weapons off the shelf to Saudi Arabia. Now, everyone knows that Israel is an undeclared nuclear power. And in September of 2025, when Saudi Arabia felt that there was a danger of nuclear escalation in the Gulf region, and they may be a target by Israel for any reason, they entered into this agreement with Pakistan. So, with
Some
this,
sources, some sources are saying that basically, while Saudi Arabia may have seen, they may have looked at Israel, but basically, since Pakistan doesn't have much to, give in return to Saudi Arabia more than cheap labor, because that's what, ideally, that's how the deal works between Saudi Arabia and Pakistan. So basically, when I speak to people, my peers, they say that this was Pakistan was interested in this mutual strategic pact, defense pact, so that if anything happens with India, Saudi Arabia will come and help Pakistan against it. But
so
then, since 2018, we are seeing improvements in relationship between India and Saudi Arabia also. How does it work?
see, the geopolitical situation is never static. History is continuously made day by day. In geopolitics, relationship is based on interests, and interests always change. So there are no permanent friends, no permanent enemies. I mentioned this Kingdom of Saudi Arabia helped Pakistan during India-Pakistan wars, but since 2018, when the reformist Prince Salman bin MBS, Mohammed bin
Yes.
Salman, came
Mohammed
to
bin Salman.
power and basically became the executive head of Saudi government because the King Salman is incapacitated because of the stroke. He brought certain reforms, and as part of those reforms, they tried to modernize Saudi economy. And they realized that they cannot just rely on petrodollars. And in that sense, they realized the importance of India. Improving economic bilateral relationship with India was in their interest. Uh,
With
but
China. I mean, why did MBS care about India? Because China is already the cheap producer of a lot of things in the region.
see, a lot of things are happening. Saudi Arabia, through Jared Kushner's Abraham Accords, is also party to China. you know, and China was trying to mend relationship between Saudi Arabia and Iran. We all know that. So there are
Yes.
complexity, layers of complexity. Things are not so simple.
And not
Saudi
straight.
Arabia's point of view was that they are sending a message to United States that we have other protectors who can provide us nuclear umbrella. They were also sending a message to Iran that don't mess with Saudi Arabia because if something happens, Pakistan will open a front on your eastern flank. They were sending a message to Israel that you are not the only nuclear power in the region. If you mess with us, not only United States may help us, but also another nuclear power, which is Pakistan, will help us. So there were multiple messaging. And the message to India is that, don't mess around with us because you are buying more oil from Russia. So you're causing economic, loss to us by no longer buying that much of oil from us. So this is our payback to you. From Pakistan's point of view, Pakistan wants to raise its international profile and wants to play the role of a statesman in the Islamic world. So when their nuclear weapons were declared and Pakistan declared itself as a nuclear power or nuclear weapons power, they said this is an Islamic bomb. And they have been telling that in OIC conferences that, one of the Islamic nations has nuclear weapons, so we are your protectors. So Pakistan is trying to project itself as net security provider to Islamic countries, whether it is OIC or any other grouping. Pakistan has also been historically involved in military pacts like CATO and CENTO. So they have this history, and they felt that it will A, give them more money from Saudi Arabia. Whatever loans they have taken, they will not be asked to repay those loans. And yes, in situation when there's a conflict with India, like Operation Sindoor, they could not trust just United States, so they needed some other, protector. And they felt that maybe getting support from Saudi Arabia will actually generate more support from the OIC countries because
Yeah.
Saudi Arabia claims to be the leader of OIC countries. So there are levels of complexity involved there.
So how true is this that okay, Pakistan is definitely insecure as far as India is concerned. So this back the coming back to SNDA, it completely makes sense for Pakistan. But when we speak about Saudi Arabia, nobody is doing an act of kindness over here. This is a strategic agreement. So how true is it that somewhere down the line, both Saudi Arabia and Pakistan are also insecure of Israel?
Yes. And this is, I said that Saudis were signaling to Israel also. And Pakistan is under perpetual threat, like the way Israelis have taken upon themselves to bomb the Syrian nuclear installations and destroyed that. There were plans at one point in time to even bomb Kahuta nuclear research facilities by Israel, but at that time they could not get refueling facilities. So it's a it's a game. It's a game that is being played at multiple levels. It's not like linear game.
So, apart from Israel picking up fight with obviously Palestine, which they started when they attacked all those people who were basically enjoying a music festival when that Israel-Hamas war started.
October
Now,
7th.
October, yes, sir, 2023. So, and now this is Israel is involved with Iran. So suddenly, how come Israel is, coming so much in limelight for taking a stance and attacking all these people? This religious war, if I may call it, the Israel versus Hamas, Israel versus Iran. Is it like something like the Jews versus Islam?
It
Is it
may
that
be
war?
considered an existential war from Israeli perspective because Hamas as an organization is sworn to destruction of the quote unquote Zionist entity.
Zionist, yes, sir.
Similarly, the Islamic regime in Iran is committed to destruction of the Zionist entity. So, West Asia for decades has not been peaceful. There is one war or the other going on. If there is no hot war, there is a cold war between these parties. And currently, the environment internationally is very permissive because the current US administration does not adhere to any international rules. So Israel is taking benefit of that. Israel had actually persuaded Trump in his first administration to cancel the JCPOA that was negotiated painstakingly by European powers after you know, almost a decade of negotiations that put caps on Iran's nuclear weapons program. and that was under international monitoring along with IAPA. And that was a fair agreement that would have led to a cap on Iranian nuclear program. Iranians had always maintained that they are not going to develop nuclear weapons, but as a signatory to NPT, as a non nuclear weapon state, they have every right to do research on nuclear power and develop their nuclear power capabilities. And in fact, the assassinated Supreme Leader Khamenei had issued a fatwa, and that fatwa was that nuclear weapons are against humanity. Iran will not develop nuclear weapons. But we heard from Israel that they did not believe in it. By pulling out, US pulling out of JCPOA, it gave a carte blanche to Iran to increase the level of uranium enrichment, which was capped earlier at 20% to 60%. But you need around 90 or 95% enrichment to develop a nuclear weapon. And by all calculations, Iran had a dual policy that they will have the capability, nuclear capability, but they will not develop nuclear weapons. So there was an ambiguity there. Okay. But they were very clear that they will not develop nuclear weapons. And current Israeli administration led by Bibi Netanyahu wants the entire nuclear program, entire missiles program, and Iranian proxies of local terrorist outfits to be totally annihilated. And there, Israel's motives are different from United States motives. And there's a personal involvement of Bibi Netanyahu because he was facing corruption charges. And the attempts were made by President Trump to tell the Israeli president to pardon Mr. Netanyahu unconditionally. And the only way Mr. Netanyahu has been keeping these charges, frozen by saying I am the prime minister and any kind of, court case interferes with my defense of the nation. So you saw in tiny strip of Gaza, which is 10 by 20 miles, 20 miles in length and 10 miles in width, that war against Hamas went for more than 2 years. I mean,
True.
Israel is a very strong power. To take 2 years to decapitate Hamas and that area, small area, should not have taken 2 years. But I think there's a method to the madness because
Of course,
for
they have support.
Netanyahu's political survival, a war is essential. An enemy has to be created. Yes, enemy is there, but he has carte blanche from US to do whatever he wants to do.
And so, what do you think right now, currently, what would be the number one thing on mind of Putin and also Xi Jinping? What would they be thinking as China and Russia? Because they are the other two biggest powers apart from US. And I also feel that this is a fight or a war which is much below the level of US. So Trump has also been, left alone by other members of NATO. They are like, we are not getting involved, and we have already burned our hands in Ukraine-Russia war.
So you are seeing emergence of a new world order, which is not likely to be unipolar, which is not bipolar. It is going to be multipolar,
Multipolar. Yeah.
and all the events that are happening is leading to weakening of United States as well as US turning into possibly fortress America. But on the other hand, Russia has been weakened quite a bit by the Ukraine war, and Russia would like to see United States to bleed just like they bled in Vietnam. So
True.
it is in Putin's interest that this Gulf war, regional Gulf war, continues, and they have relationship with Iran, very close relationship with Iran. Similarly, as far as China is concerned, they were getting 90% of Iranian oil, despite US sanctions since 2018 on Iranian oil, to which actually India agreed to quote unquote obey and stop buying Iranian oil. China was continuing to buy. So they had good relationships with Iran. And both these countries, although they are not going to directly get involved, but are providing intelligence information to Iran. And there are allegations that the Russian Federation is providing technologically advanced Shahid drones, which Iran had exported to Russia during Ukraine war. They improved upon that and they are providing them through land routes, more drones, more missiles, and of course, Iran has S-400 batteries imported from Russia that have been fairly useful for them in this current war. And there are also unconfirmed reports that Russian Federation may be providing an upgraded version of S-400, which is S-500 ballistic missile defense shield. So it is an asymmetric war between United States and Iran in which Israel is also a party. But you will not expect Putin to join directly because superpowers never fight with each other directly. They use proxy players and proxy playgrounds. Similarly, China will not join directly, but China will continue to provide intelligence and through North Korea material support to Iran so that there's deniability. In the geopolitical circles, it's very fashionable to talk about quads. So, in relation to the quad, there was a quad that was talked about. It's called either CERN or CRINC. CERN stands for China, Iran, Russia, North Korea. And the CRINC also means the same thing, China, Russia, Iran, and North Korea. So they have very harmonious relationship between these four countries. North Korea provided soldiers to Russia during war with Ukraine. North Korean soldiers died for Russia. Similarly, North Korea is also providing actually missiles and possibly drones to Iran. So this relationship is there and everyone is playing their game. Both China and Russia feel that it is their interest to prolong the war in which United States capabilities get degraded. Now, China, although would like the war to be prolonged, but would like the Strait of Hormuz to remain open so that they can continue to get their oil from Iran. But
So,
they
so what? So I'm so sorry to interrupt, sir, but the moment you said, Trump has given this deadline of 7th of April to Iran to open the Strait of Hormuz. What do you expect? What is going to happen? I don't think Iran is going to just listen to Trump, and if they don't listen, then how is Trump going to react?
so right now what we are hearing that in the informal mediation talks, Iran has rejected the concept of ceasefire. There was a two-stage procedure suggested, a temporary ceasefire for 45 days, during which a final agreement would be negotiated that will involve Iran's nuclear program as well as missiles program. Pakistan had presented a 15-point formula to Iran, which Iran said was a maximalist formula. Iran presented a 5-point formula in which certain issues were totally not acceptable to them. Iran has publicly stated that they don't want to develop nuclear weapons. In fact, before this war started on February 28th, there were negotiations going on facilitated by Omani foreign minister. And I watched the interview of Omani foreign minister. He was very hopeful on a sort of, Friday morning that on Monday we will have another meeting. We'll be able to, jot down everything, cross all the I's and, dot all the I's and cross all the T's. But on Friday night, on February 28th, United States attacked. So Iran wants certain guarantees that in June of 2025, both Israel and United States attacked Iran for 12 days, ostensibly to obliterate their nuclear program. But they again started within less than a year. So what good is a paper agreement signed with United States if United States keeps changing the goalposts and keeps attacking Iran all the time? So they are saying that we don't want any interim measures. It has to be final agreement. and there have to be security guarantees. And the United States doesn't want to give those kind of security guarantees, and they bring extraneous issues that is leading to rejection of the ceasefire
So
proposal.
please help me understand that what exactly is the motive behind commencing this war? US is Trump's motive. What is the motive of United States? Why did they attack Iran on 28th? Even when you just said that the foreign minister of Oman was there, he was pretty hopeful, but still, the attack happened, and here we are. We are also stuck. It's hampering the economy of the world. A lot of warnings are being issued by other countries. What was the exact intention of Trump to start this war?
Look, Trump's intentions are known only to Trump. Nobody else knows his intentions. That is one thing.
Hmm.
Second is that Trump may show a lot of bravado, display of bravado publicly, but his thinking is not very clear and not very, analytic. There's a lot of impulsivity in making the decisions, and he's under undue influence of Benjamin Netanyahu.
Netanyahu. I do think so that there was a lot of pressure of Israel.
Bibi Netanyahu made Trump abrogate the JCPOA in 2017 or 2018. That showed the power of Bibi Netanyahu. That agreement was being observed by Iran to the letter and the spirit under IAE observation. On February 11th, Netanyahu made a visit to Washington, D.C., and had a very detailed chat with Trump. I think Netanyahu was able to convince Trump to attack Iran, and that may have been the precipitant, but the war was started without even thinking of consequences because this administration does not think thoroughly and acts impulsively. So essentially, they are couching it in religious terms. You might have seen White House pictures of these, various, Christian sort of, priests and war praying along with Trump, and some of them declaring that Trump was born to decimate Iran according to the scripture. So there's a lot of nonsense going on at this point in time. But the understanding is that Trump has been manipulated by Bibi Netanyahu, who is a very shrewd operator, to his advantage. And about certain things, even US said that they didn't know about, Israel attacking, civilian infrastructures, a gas field, an oil field in Iran earlier. But right now, Mr. Trump is also threatening to, destroy
Do
the
the same thing.
bridges. You know, there will be a bridge day and power plant day combined into one on April 7th. So what Mr. Trump will do is only to Mr. known to Mr. Trump because he keeps on changing his statements every hour. There is no The only predictable thing about Mr. Trump is his unpredictability.
True, true, sir. So coming back to SMDA, and coming back to Pakistan, our not so dear neighbor. So now another thing is happening with Pakistan, that Pakistan has been asked to return the loan of $3.5 billion to UAE.
Yes.
Now, what is this sudden development? And also, Iran has also attacked other West Asian countries because wherever the base of US soldiers was there. So, do we see like a completely, a big war exploding anytime soon where everybody else will be immersed and involved in it?
So you have more than one questions, and I will address each sub question by itself. Pakistan has been asked by UAE to return the loan of $3.5 billion because UAE is under attack. They are losing in their infrastructure, they are losing money, and they need cash. So it's very simple that they would like
Very
Pakistan to
understandable.
return the money so that they can focus on their own nation. Saudi Arabia is also under attack, but Saudi Arabia is very miffed with Pakistan that Pakistan refused to assist Saudi Arabia in this conflict with Iran. Saudi Arabia's expectation may have been that Pakistan opens a front with Iran, which Pakistan refused. So, as a punishment, Saudi Arabia is now asking Pakistan to return $6.5 billion loan they had given in two installments whenever Pakistani economy was under a lot of stress, fear of bankruptcy, or you know. So those are the things. Now, as far as wider regional war that is going on in the West Asia, it's not like trilateral war, it has become a regional war. Having said that, the GCC countries, Gulf, Cooperation Council countries, have not taken any direct part in this war except for providing the basis to US military and providing some intelligence inputs and hiding their soldiers in hotels, because when Iranians started attacking the bases, military bases, they evacuated the soldiers from the bases and put them in hotels and civilian structures. So that is what they are doing. It is a regional war. Pakistan at this point in time is taking the mantle of a mediator. So you had the four foreign ministers meeting in which Pakistani foreign minister, Saudi Arabian, Egyptian, and Turkey's foreign minister came as interlocutors. Probably they are just acting as a post office. Pakistan is acting as a post office, but Pakistan wants to raise its international profile, but it does not want to get involved in this war. Actually, there were demonstrations in Pakistan by Shiite minority. Pakistan is 85% Sunni, 15% Shia, and the Shia sect adherents were demonstrating in Pakistan, and Pakistan's de facto ruler, Asim Munir, basically said that if you care so much about Iran, you can go to Iran and fight the war.
Hmm.
So essentially, Pakistan wants to preserve itself, does not want to get sucked into it by taking the role of a mediator. Because Pakistan is very, very concerned if the war expands, Israel will take the opportunity to destroy Pakistani nukes.
All right, so this is basically, just like Pandora's box. We started talking about the SMDA, the Mutual Defense Strategic Mutual Agreement between Saudi and Pakistan. And then definitely, how can we not talk about the ongoing, war between US, Iran, and Israel? Why is US supporting Israel so much? What is the equation in West Asia between Iran, Pakistan, and Saudi? How UAE is also involved? What was the role of the foreign minister of Oman? So much is happening. So this is, yes, you're right, sir. This is blowing up into a regional conflict. And here we are, Indians, like sitting on our island, observing everything.
I think India has done fairly well by guarding its economic interests, making sure that, our diaspora that is there in Gulf region is at least evacuated from the conflict zone. You cannot evacuate everyone because there are 10 million people there. Our oil and natural gas supplies are being selectively okayed by Iran to come from, Strait of Hormuz.
Bit of hope,
So
yes.
there's no point getting involved for India, either for one side or the other. It does not make sense. We have to just, guard our economic and strategic interests and not be a party to this senseless war.
Absolutely, sir. Thank you so much, Dr. Adityan ji, for answering so many questions of mine because it is mind-boggling, even if someone has a little bit or basic understanding of what's going on around us, especially with this war between US, Israel, and Iran. And sir, I hope that you will join me in the future also. And we will be discussing a lot more topics, a lot more popular topics on geopolitics and the ones which are not even that popular. Thank you again, sir, for joining.
Thank you very much indeed, Captain Nikita Sahai, for providing your platform of national security analysis. And as a parting shot, I'd like to tell your viewers that there's a perpetual war going on in West Asia. West Asia has not been